Welcome to the Lake Ontario Offshore Racing LOOR video on how to register for a LOOR event. I'm Graham Dougall, the chair of LOOR's Race Management Technical and Safety Committee and its race officer. For more information, please see LOOR's website at www.loor.ca. If you have any questions or comments, please email them to us at info@loor.ca. especially for improvements to this or other LOOR videos. I will be demonstrating a registration to the Lake Ontario 300 Challenge Race, as the process is basically the same for the Susan Hood Trophy Race and the Lake Ontario Shorthanded Series. The only difference are several optional questions for the 300 related to any social media used by the participating sailboats during the race, and that can be integrated with the public tracking website. Okay, we'll go over the main menu for you. Here is where you would log in to create your registration. Here's where you manage your registration afterwards. Here's where crews can log in to provide their information, and this is mandatory this year. Over here is where there's the notice of race. And I would encourage you to review the notice of race before you complete your registration process. But if you'll just scroll down here, you'll notice that each notice of race on the front page has a pointer to the entry checklist, which has a complete list of all the items you need to have for a complete entry. Okay, we'll now go back to the main page. This is where the sailing instructions will be posted once they're available. This is a link to the official notice board where any official notices by the race committee will be posted. Here's a link to additional documents and forms. This includes copies of the releases for the sailboat and the person in charge and the crew. Also, there are the LOOR Special Offshore Regulations for Category 3 and 4 for the LOSH races. There is the combined form and the overboard recovery drill certificate that you will have to provide at the mandatory meeting for Category 3 events. And here's a form to fill out if you have a question about your scoring. Other forms and pieces of information will be posted here from time to time, such as the weather reading and the participants meeting presentation. So let's go back to the main menu. Here is a link to additional material that you may have, such as this, in this case, is the material on Roland's Law that you need to be familiar with. This is where the link for individual events to book a mooring at or dock at Port Credit will be posted. So this is where there are any additional links that are needed to help you manage a particular event. Going back to the main menu, there's other things you can subscribe to, the event news, etc. Now let's go on to the actual registration. You'll see the information is already pre-populated because I did a registration for another event before, but we'll go over it with it anyway. Here is the access code if you want to change it, but please make sure you remember what it is. Here is the tombstone data for me, address, phone numbers, etc. Email is critical. Here is the yacht club to which you belong. All participants in LOOR events, that is the sailboat or the person in charge, need to belong to a yacht club that is either associated with Ontario Sailing, Sail Canada, or their member national authority, like in the US Sailing. If you're not a member or not sure, please contact us, as there is a way to allow you to become a member of the Maple Leaf Fund, gives you entitlement to race. Unless you're a professional, you will be in Group 1. Here's the information about the boat. If only put information in here if you actually have it on the sale, such as CAN, UK, or USA. This information is very useful if we have to do a search for you or need to contact the authorities for any purposes, as they want all this information. This includes your registration number. The boat emergency phone is a reachable cell phone carried while racing, so we can contact you on your boat if necessary by these means. It can be the same as the personal cell of the person registering. However, even if it's a duplicate, please enter it. Also think about a way to keep it charged for the race, however long the duration of the race. Next is the radio call field, where you enter your VHF Marine Station License call sign. While such a station license is no longer mandatory for Canadian or American vessels if fitted with a fixed VHF radio, if either cross the border, a station license is required. This is because the two governments have never signed the treaty removing the cross-border requirements. Now we'll move over to the rating information. Handicaps are the bane of the organizers and racers alike. If you're racing in a handicap class, you must have a valid certificate for the year. This means properly renewed and paid for. Each club has a different process for collecting the fees for their members per LO certificates. So the vast majority of clubs may not automatically renew certificates. The certificate holder must request renewal to their club per LO handicapper. Please ensure that your certificate is renewed at least 3 to 4 weeks before the race so we don't have to bug you. PERF LO does an annual regression analysis of the race results to fine-tune class ratings. This process is completed by mid-April. It generates rating changes for many sailboats. Please check the PERF LO website around May 1st to see if your sailboat has a new rating. If so, please update it in the registration system. Just a reminder that you must carry a printed copy of your latest PERF LO certificate on your sailboat while racing to comply with the PERF LO rules. If your sailboat doesn't have a PERF LO certificate, then there are two situations. Your sailboat's class is already in the PERF LO database. Once you have all the necessary measurements, a certificate can be issued in about several weeks by working with your club's PERF LO handicapper. If your sailboat class isn't in the PERF LO database, then the lead time to obtain a certificate can be months or more, given the number of steps involved. I really do mean months, as I've been involved in this situation as the Queen City PERF LO handicapper. I can't stress enough the fact that you should have started earlier if you need to obtain a new certificate, no matter which situation. I'll just enter a fictitious PERF certificate number. The number of crew, I'll put it in 5. Moving down here to the other section, if there's an emergency or some other situation, we may have to contact somebody about your sailboat. So we need to contact a shore, and that's where this information goes. The phone numbers, email address. Next is the MMSI, which is your sailboat's Marine Mobile Service Identity. There is no cost in obtaining an MMSI. That's right, there's something free in sailboat racing. Any sailboat racing in a LOOR Category 3 race must have a 25-watt VHF marine radio. If your radio supports the digital selective calling, DSC, then you must have your free MMSI installed and working. We will be checking for this item, so make sure you have one. For information about MMSI, see the article in the LOOR Guide 2019, which is available from www.loor.ca. I'll just enter in a fictitious, I'm going to a number. We'd like to know whether you have a EPIRB, so this could help us work with the search and rescue people if it goes off. If not, just an A. We'd like to know whether you have a AIS transceiver or not. This boat doesn't have one. The next three fields are only for the LO300 and relate to questions about social media that you might be using while racing and that can be integrated with the public YB tracking website. If you want to make use of it, please put that information in. I will select that I'm going to be racing on the Scotch Bonnet course Flying Sails, and I'll then submit the registration. Now we need to go to the waiver and entry fees. This is a waiver release covering the requirements under the new Rowan's Law in Ontario. Please read the contents and the material that is referenced so that you're familiar with what you have to do. At which point, when you're okay, you need to select yes, and that you're accepting the conditions. Acceptance of these conditions is a mandatory condition for participating in LOOR events. As this is a demonstration registration with a fictitious sailboat, I won't do the mandatory payment portion. Remember, the full payment at the reduced rate must be made before the end of the discount period. Go back to the main menu. Now you can show logging on to the owner's corner. Shows you that I haven't paid the entry fee and I've done the waiver. We haven't reviewed your certificate. All the crew hasn't been entered. The safety documents haven't been received at the check-in, and you haven't checked in here. Here is where I can manage my crew list. All crew, because of the Rowan's Law, need to make sure they register with us. It's an easy process. Here you just have to enter the name of the crew, their email address, and when you click add a new crew member, it will send them an email asking them to complete the registration by logging in. We go back to the main owner's menu. And that is how simple it is to register for a LOOR event. Thank you for watching this LOOR video. For more information, please see LOOR's website at www.loor.ca. If you have any questions or comments, please email them to us at info@loor.ca, especially for improvements to this and other LOOR videos. Thank you.